welcome everybody. Hope everybody's safe. So we have a quorum. We're gonna begin this meeting sitting as the Board of Canvassers. As you can remember, we were all sworn in today, except David was sworn in earlier as the Board of Canvassers. So we have to elect officers. We're going to elect a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, Jim.
Okay, is there any nominees for chairman of the Board of Canvassers?
I move Mr. Charlotte as the chairman of the Board of Canvassers.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed? Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate that. I nominate Nahid Kozame for vice chairman of the Board of Canvassers. Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I nominate.
Okay,
Oh, go ahead.
Nahid, go ahead. Nominate. Nahid, go ahead.
I nominate David Neiman as the secretary of the Board of Canvassers.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 No one opposed? Okay, so we have our election of Board of Canvassers officers. Kevin, I don't think there's any more business for the Board of Canvassers at this time, is there?
That's it. You're correct, Jim.
Is there a motion to adjourn the Board of Canvassers?
I move to adjourn the Board of Canvassers.
Second?
I second.
All those in favor say, I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're going to move into our Board of Elections meeting. We have a quorum. Everybody's here. Changes to the agenda. We're going to have an executive session after the meeting regarding a personnel issue. I know Margaret has supplemented the agenda which was sent to us a short while ago. It's basically about the election and the issues relating to it. Okay, disclosure of campaign contributions. Is there any board member that has made contributions since the last meeting to any candidate
No?
that will be subject to the count of our Board of Canvassers? I have none. Anybody had anything? Hearing none?
Nope.
Hearing none. There's no disclosure of campaign contributions. Lisa, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
No, there's no one.
Okay, let me ask this, since there's a lot of interest. Is there anyone who has called in? Do they have the capacity to talk, Lisa, if they signed in?
They do have the ability to talk.
They do?
They do.
Okay, is there anybody that has signed in on the call that would like to address the Board of Elections?
Jim, I am not signed in. This is Senator Cheryl Fagan, and thank you all for your leadership and hard work during these really stressful, demanding times. Thank you to the staff and the board. And as you all know, I've continued to work on these issues as Vice Chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs, which oversees all election laws. We had a really good Senate hearing last week, and then obviously the State Board met last week as well. And so hopefully we are moving forward in an expeditious manner towards a safe and accurate election. I will
Thank you, Senator.
read it myself unless anyone has any questions.
You've been a tremendous asset and help to us, and we really appreciate that. We're going to be going, I want to call on David to make some remarks, but before that, but after that, Margaret's going to do the election report. And if you can stay a little while, you and I spoke earlier today, and there's some points that, if you're still on the line, I'd like you to highlight for us if you could.
Be happy to be available in whatever way is useful to the board, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. David called me earlier with some sad news, and I'd like David to address the board. David?
Thank you, Jim. I heard the sad news this morning that Odessa Shannon passed away.
Who?
Odessa Shannon. Odessa was the first African American woman to serve on the Board of Education. She served from, I believe, 1982 to 1990. She also served as a special assistant to the county executive, Gilchrist, I believe. And for many years was the executive director of the Montgomery County Human Rights Commission. And she was a resident of Colesville and a very an activist in Montgomery County, pretty much until until her dying day. And I had the pleasure of getting to know her when I was the student member of the school board many decades ago, and staying in touch with her over the years. And she was an amazing person and a real historic figure in Montgomery County. So I just wanted to comment upon that because this did just happen today, and to send condolences to her family and friends. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And the Board of Elections echoes your sentiments, and very sad news. Margaret?
Yes.
Margaret, Margaret, you want to make your report to the board?
Yes, I will. Beginning with personnel, the county has instituted a hiring freeze, so we are not really interviewing any of the vacant positions at this time. And staff is slowly beginning to return as the number of ballots are expected to, the vote by mail return ballots are expected to increase, and so we will need more staff on site. So with the staff returning, masks are being provided, gloves are being provided, sanitizer has been in place since January, and we are, of course, many of the individuals that work upstairs have their own cubicles, but we are making sure that the layout in the intake and receiving of the vote by mail ballots will have the proper social distancing put in place. So that's pretty much it in terms of personnel. Kara, are you on the line for the budget?
Before you get to the budget, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Dave.
You indicated that, and I'm glad to hear it, that that masks and gloves and other things are being distributed to staff. Is it a requirement for staff to wear masks while they're in the office?
Yes.
Okay. Just
Margaret.
wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Margaret, when the ballots come in, I think you had mentioned in the past, but I just want to see if you can clarify it. When the ballots come in, are we letting them sit and rest for a day or two before they're touched?
That's our
something
goal.
like that in the past.
Yes, but if you'd let me deal with that when I start talking about the return ballots, I will address that issue.
Okay. Ira?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. We sent out the budget spreadsheet and another handout, the vote by mail estimate, with the board advance packet. And so if you have those readily available, you'll see that most of our expenditures today have been in personnel. We have updated figures where we've properly manually made updates to the expenditures and seasonal temps. And you'll see that most of that budget has already been depleted before we get to most of our election operations with the election. You'll also notice that we have spent all of our allocated funds for the State Board of Elections billing, even though we have not received our fourth quarter bill yet. You have that information in front of you. If you have any questions about the vote by mail estimate, please feel free to interrupt. And again, this is just an estimate, and we are still we are still calculating the cost of vote by mail as we move to that. Moving on to the FY21 budget, we did see the county council's recommended FY21 budget. And to go back to the county executive's recommendation, it was $8,375,091. It did not include the department's request for enhancements or competition list items. And although OMB and the CE were aware of a projected state bill of just under $3 million, only about $1.5 million was allocated for the state bill. And if you like those very specific numbers, I can give that to you. Are you interested in the very specific amount? Yeah. It's $2,982,321. So that's what I mean when I say roughly $3 million, or the anticipated FY21 bill from Maryland State Board of Elections. And so when the county council received our total, or when the county council received the CE's recommendation for about 8.3, they removed the county executive's recommendation for compensation increases for all staff, and that amounts to about $90,000. And what they approved was about $8.2 million, $8,284,106 for us for FY21. And that's pretty standard with what they did with most of these departments, and they're calling that a continuation of services budget. So what that means for an FY21 traditional election in terms of our budget, that means that we're facing another significant deficit, which I believe will be more extreme than FY20. And I say that because our state bill line item will be funded at about 1.5, even though we're projecting $3 million state bill. So in addition to that, we still have our historical personnel deficit. We have not addressed the underfunding in the election judge stipend, and we have these new costs related to the coronavirus. And I wanted to, Margaret asked me to mention some of the unusual or out of the ordinary expenditures related to coronavirus. And those include health and safety items such as gloves, masks, face shields, sanitizer, and plexiglass, as well as things related to telework and vote by mail, which are things like the drop boxes, the cameras, the canvassing, the mail trays, the letter openers, the mail cards, the laptops. And these items are acquired in a number of ways, and whichever way the supply chain allows. That means that we acquire them on the department level, the county level, and through the Maryland State Board of Elections, so the state level, in whichever way we can. So if you have any questions, please feel free to
So Kira, Jim, so what, can you give us a bottom line on our deficit? Have you formulated that yet?
we don't have the bottom line. What we're anticipating is something for this year, around $800 million.
I'm sorry, there's a little background noise.
No, parents, think, hold on. Somebody's TV is on. I can hear it.
We're looking at
The public or whoever is listening, could you turn off the TV? Can you ask everyone who's not speaking to mute their phone?
Definitely.
that would also be helpful. So if everyone could, I don't know if you can hear me, but everyone who is not speaking is put on something mute, that will also help any interruptions or feedback that's happening.
Also, how do we mute the iPad?
Yeah, that's what
So if you have
Hit the
open,
mic.
You've been muted. To unmute yourself, press *6.
and
I got it, thank you. Got it, thank you.
And then also to answer that question again, for this year, we are anticipating a deficit of between $800,000 and $1 million, $800,000 and $1 million. And that includes the anticipated fees that the rest of the state board fees that they anticipated billing us. So that does not include, the unexpected coronavirus things that will be billed to us that we do know is going to be a split from the state with the CARES Act.
Thank you, Kira.
Am I supposed to unmute?
Does anybody else have any questions for Kira? Okay, Margaret, the next item was the voter registration deadline.
Yes, the voter registration deadline is May 27. You can come into the office and register to vote and change your party up
Hear me,
until
Alan? I see you. Can you hear me?
I hear you, Jim.
until 5
Margaret,
p.m.
please.
Hello.
Oh, Margaret?
It's on mute, Margaret.
Hello, this is Margaret again. Sorry. The deadline to register to vote or change your party is on May 27. You can come into the office until 5 p.m. and then from 5 p.m. until 11:59 p.m. you can register or change your party online. Okay. Moving on. The State Board of Elections. The ballots for Montgomery County were mailed beginning May 9th through May 13th via the State Board of Elections vendor. Actually, we think some of them were also going out today from the vendor in Minnesota as well as Florida and Ohio. We have been advised by the State Board that it's expected all ballots will have been delivered by Friday, May 22nd. The vote-by-mail drop boxes are expected to be installed today. Chris is actually out in the field with the transportation company and working with Montgomery County Police and County Security to place them so that they have the best advantage for camera surveillance. And they will stay installed and be open and operational for 24/7 until the last day at June 2nd at 8 p.m. And then they will be locked or whenever the last voter in line drops their drop in. And then they will be removed by the next day by the State Board of Elections. As I said, all sites are under surveillance with cameras, and the police have agreed to increase their surveillance of the specific sites, including this site. And I was here on Saturday, and they are making they are driving through. The drop boxes are, of course, here at the Board of Elections, the City of Rockville City Hall parking lot, and then they're going in today at Germantown Community Rec, Praisner Community Rec, Silver Springs Center, Civic Center, the Activity Center at Boar Park, and the Wheaton Community Center. So all of those items are being in place. So as people are receiving their ballots, and we believe that 82% of the ballots are in Montgomery County, supposedly being delivered. They should be the drop boxes, and of course the U.S. Postal Service has their drop boxes available. We are going to talk about the mail a little bit further in the meeting. Allison has been talking to the state today, so I'll wait till that point when we're discussing the 2020 election primary. Unless there's other questions, I'm going to have the board attorney's report.
Good afternoon, this is Kevin Karpinski. As Margaret indicated, we have a drop box at the City of Rockville, so we have an MOU with them to use that drop box. That's been installed, correct, Margaret?
Yeah, it's on.
So that drop box is open and available for individuals to use. The State Board has implemented bi-weekly meetings with the local board attorneys, giving updates. We had our first meeting last week. Most of it was uneventful. The one topic that was of considerable discussion was what if individuals refuse to wear a mask when they go to a vote center? And the state board and attorney general's office received input from the local board attorneys, and I think will be giving us their final decision when we have our next conference call, which is next Tuesday. But other than that, that's all I have to report.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay.
Margaret, we're going to go on to the preparation for the primary.
Yes, we are. The first thing I'm going to do is because I know that many of you, I've seen the emails, are very interested in the delivery of the vote by mail ballot envelope. So, Allison?
Yes, can you hear
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
We have ballots went out into the mail stream, as Margaret said earlier, between last Saturday and last Wednesday. We, at this point, as those ballots have gone, from the mail house to the voters back to our office, we have less than 1,000 ballots in-house at this time. We just received today our very first, I would say, any significant volume back, and that was a little over 3,000 ballots that we received today. They are sitting for 24 hours until we're going to open them in training rooms ready for us to go ahead and go through the process. Speaking to the question that we keep being asked about one voter in a household receiving the ballot, but another voter not receiving the ballot. I think our voters are pretty used to getting their sample ballots at the same time because the method that we use to distribute those, the sample ballots are sent out in carrier route order so that voters in one household do generally receive their sample ballot at the same time. Because these ballots are going out from a mail house and because the way that they're handled is not in carrier route order, but they're being mailed out first-class mail, and the order in which they could be printed might be, say, in voter ID number. It's in some order that is not necessarily household order. And so it is to be expected that individual voters in a household may get their ballot on different days. Our guidance from the state board at this time is that we are to expect those ballots all to be received by households by this upcoming Friday. We are able to look up individual voters' tracking data, their postal service tracking data, and so, later this week, there's just so many voters who haven't received their ballots yet. It doesn't make sense for us to be doing that in volume for voters at this point. But later this week, once the vast majority of households have received their ballots, we can certainly look up the individual postal service tracking data to be able to confirm for individual voters who call us where their ballot is in the mail stream.
Allison, Jim, what does someone do if they don't have their ballot? Is it on our website? David had a good suggestion earlier today. There should be something very simple on the website, like a push button kind of thing. If you didn't get your ballot, we're going to send you a new one. I mean, what do we have set up for people who this week don't get a ballot? What should they do, and how do we publicize that?
Jim, can I add to that?
Sure.
The other question that I have is that I know that on our website now we have the FAQs. The FAQs have a number of dates associated with them that are apparently no longer accurate. For example, Kevin just announced that the drop box at City Hall in Rockville is currently available, and on our website it says May 21st. Which obviously, if it's available now, we might as well tell people that it's available now. So in addition to what do we tell people about what to do when they don't get their ballot, I'd like to know what are we doing to update the information that we have on our website. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and take the first crack at the answer to that question, and then Margaret or others may want to elaborate. But I do want to just underscore that there are an awful lot of voters who have not received their ballot yet, and so it's appropriate to urge caution over the next couple of days and have people just sit tight until the end of the week and quite likely their ballot is on its way, and it's going to be getting to them within just the next few days. But yes, we certainly do appreciate that this is, there will be voters who will still have questions and who will be more delayed perhaps than others in receiving their ballot. And so the FAQs did have dates on them when we expected the ballots to go out. And so we have revised those dates with the shifts in the guidance that we've received from the state, so that the FAQs do currently say for voters to give us a call later this week if they have not received their ballot. I would urge voters to go ahead and do that.
I'm looking at it right now, and that's not what it seems to say. I'm looking at the sixth question down on FAQs. What if I don't get my ballot in the mail?
What's the first
It
question?
says, if you do not receive your ballot by Wednesday, May 20th, as we talked about Friday, it says, visit the voter lookup tool at the Maryland State Board of Elections or text check the 77788 and click on the link to request a replacement ballot. Now that's very different from what you just suggested, and I'm not suggesting that everyone should request replacement ballots before Friday if we actually think that a lot of ballots are going to arrive Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But right now, if you go onto the website, that's what it says.
I do expect a lot of ballots to arrive Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but yes, I hear you. So we'll take a look at that. We can revise that further as the guidance that we get from the state shifts. Yeah, we can shift that date to Friday.
But before we move on, are you saying that you can or you will?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
And David, the information on the drop.
Alan, did you have something? I heard Alan.
I agree with you. There should be a separate button on the first page of the website, not just down in the FAQs. It should be someplace very prominent so people can see right away what to do if they don't receive it by Wednesday or Friday, whatever.
Alan, this is Margaret. The ballots right now are being issued by the state board. So the thing that we would need to do is direct them back to the state board's lookup so that they can request a second issue. And as for the fact that we can update, I mean, quite honestly, the Dropbox and the available on May 21st, that's when the state said that we were going to have them available. And at one point during this process, we were told that they would not be opened until May 21st. That changed last Wednesday or Thursday when the state board met. And I needed to make sure that these drop boxes were actually going to be delivered today, and they are, and we can change that the drop boxes are now available effective today.
That would be great. Good. I was not suggesting that that it should have been done before now, just that I think it needs to be done. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look at the state's voter lookup tool recently, but when you go to the state lookup tool, the instructions are anything but clear for our voters, because on the first page it says you can use this tool too, and it does, and request a ballot is not on that list. You can review your voter registration record. You can request a duplicate voter registration card. You can find out where to vote. You can find out your voting district. You can find out your local board. You can see the status of your absentee or provisional ballot, or you can view your sample ballot. And then if you actually then type in your information on there, and you do the search, at that point, it says
unmute her phone. Just do star
you know,
6.
we will mail all
She has
eligible
to unmute
voters
her
a
too.
ballot for the June 2nd primary. If you want your ballot mailed to another address or receive it electronically, make this request online, and there's a link to that. I think someone needs to mute. What our voters will be doing if they click on this link is we're not asking them to send it to another address, and I'm sure we're not trying to encourage them to receive it electronically. We want to give people an opportunity to have it sent to their same address. But when you go onto the lookup tool, that's not an option that is being provided. And then you have to know that what you're doing is essentially on this, while Margaret has made clear to all of us that the ballots are the same as the absentee ballot, on this particular lookup tool, you are essentially requesting an absentee ballot.
Hello, can somebody hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
Naheed.
you're on the screen. I see you, Naheed.
Yeah, because I had so many questions, but nobody could hear me. Now I guess I'm
No, I didn't mute
all right.
that.
I'm okay now. I'm on the screen. Okay. Sorry.
I didn't mute that.
Go ahead.
So
Hello.
my question is whether there's anything that can be done about the state's lookup tool to make it clearer, either by our contacting the state to point out the fact that it's pointing people in a different direction, or by our having our own ability to get people where they have to go in order to request their ballot.
Yeah, the simpler the better, David. Exactly.
About request a ballot, is that what's coming up?
This is unbelievable here.
Allison?
David, this is Margaret. You know, we can certainly reach out to the state board staff and say that that our board is receiving complaints that it's not clear how how an individual requests a duplicate ballot. I would suggest that at this late date, the best thing that a voter should do is to, I can call the state board and see what they're going to say, but the state board is probably very similar in terms of the institution of government of trying to get these websites redesigned to reflect what you're requesting. So at this point in the game, I would suggest the best thing to do is to call 800-222-VOTE, or to call our line, which I believe is on a lot of our public relations stuff, which is 240-777-8550, and talk to someone in our office to accommodate so that we can do what we need to do. And if what looks like they haven't been issued a ballot, or it was sent to the wrong address, or they want to send it to a new address because they didn't get it timely, those are the two things that it's better to call at this time.
Okay. Well, Margaret, I think that's a great idea. I guess my suggestion, combining what we've now heard from, I know Jim and Alan and probably others feel the same way, maybe we need to have something on the very front of our website that says if you haven't received your ballot, either click here, and when you click there, it gives the phone number that people can call, or it makes very clear, the best way to check on the status of your ballot is to call this number. Because right now the FAQs and the text, if you text the word check, they direct everybody to that state website. And I understand what you're saying. Changing the state's website may not be possible. But if people go to that website and they're looking for a duplicate ballot to the same address, I think they're going to be very confused. And so if we have people that they can call, I would want to put that out everywhere we can, but starting with the very top of our own webpage.
Well, David, I appreciate what you're attempting to do here, but you can go to the state's website, first of all, and look and see if your ballot has been issued. Janet just did this, and she was able to determine that she had a ballot that had been mailed. So that's where we want them to go first. Now, if they haven't received their ballot after May 22nd, then it seems logical, or even on May 22nd, then they should call us. But I don't want, 20,000 people calling this office all at the exact same time trying to have a second issue ballot when they're probably 80% of them already have a ballot coming to them at their registration address.
Well,
if you do what you're suggesting, you will overwhelm the system.
I was suggesting the phone number because you did. But if you'd rather that the message be, if you don't get your ballot by May 22nd, then call this number. I think that's a fine message because that adjusts everybody's expectations. Because before, we told everybody that if they don't get their ballot by May 15th, they should be doing something. And there's a lot of people. I imagine you heard from a lot of people. I know I did on May 15th, saying, "Where's my ballot?" I will point out that while I know that Janet and I and you are all capable of finding the information about the fact that our ballot was sent to us on the state's website, what I was pointing out is that we're able to do it because we ignore the instructions. The instructions are telling us that we have to click in a certain place if we want to get our ballot sent to a different address, and the vast majority of people are not trying to do that. So, and I agree with you that it is probably easier to get people to call after the 22nd, if that's what the instruction is going to be, than it will be to get the state to change its website, although that would be ideal.
The main thing is that the instruction is simple and easily found by the voter. Just a reminder,
Jim, what do you
if you're not speaking, please, just a reminder, everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute your phone or iPad, because we have had some background noise. Okay.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Margaret, I have a question for Margaret. Margaret, I just dropped today my ballot in that box outside the Board of Election. Is that already set up, right?
Yes, that's been set up here at the Board of Elections since 2010. We check that every day, and now we're checking it 3 times a day.
Okay. I didn't see any camera there, so there's no security there?
The camera's on the building.
Oh, on the building. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we're going to go back now to Allison. Allison?
Yes. Yes.
Allison is waiting for your questions.
No, I think that was the question. We want to go on now, continuing with the preparation for the primary.
Okay, that's Margaret then. Okay, so going on to, first of all, there is going to be public testing on Wednesday, May 20th at 10 a.m. I need for 1 member to call in. Do I have any volunteers?
Just watch it on the iPad.
I can do that, Margaret. This is Nahi.
Okay, that'll be great, Nahid. It'll be very, very short.
If that changes, Nahi, this is Jackie. You can call me.
Okay.
And I'll do it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She won't know the time.
It's at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, May 20th. We will get the phone number for you, and I believe that it's going to be on the press release that was sent out Friday. But I'll double check that and have Allison or Roberto get back to you on that. Okay, so the vote centers, really nothing has changed. We still have 4. Public health and safety still remains a significant issue. We are going to be limited to the number of persons that are allowed in for social distancing purposes. As I mentioned earlier, we will have masks, face shields, gloves. For the election judges, we will offer masks, and every voter will have a black pen offered to them. Plexiglass shields have been constructed by the Department of General Services that are going to be placed at the check-in and ballot issuing table. So they are tall enough so that, a very tall person could check in and not expel droplets to any of our election judges. We also have a plexiglass shield that will sit on the table for provisional voting and the chiefs and the center manager. We will have sanitizing at each of the traditional optical scan voting stations. Not every voter, because paper and liquid don't always mix very well. And we've been approved to increase the number of ballot marking devices, so that we believe is going to address and minimize some of the wait times if for some reason we get a large group of people showing up on June 2nd. So we will have the ballot marking paper. We will have the paper optical scans. We'll have the audio ballot. As the governor said, this is really designed for people who cannot vote in person. We are increasing the number of chairs at each site so that individuals that have difficulty standing in line for any length of time will be allowed to sit. We're increasing the number of ADA parking positions, and in the meantime, we've made all of the purchases for the media as approved by the local board of elections. Plus, Huberto has done a fabulous job of getting as much free media on radio, especially, but also utilizing social media. Our Facebook page has gotten lots of accolades. Instagram, I think, and I don't know if we're on Twitter or not. Allison, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, we've been active on Twitter. We've been actively replying to messages. We have not been as active on Instagram, but we're looking at doing a little bit more of that.
Okay. So, Huberto, are you on the line? Okay, well, Huberto has been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, MS Teams meetings, FaceTime with many, many groups, and the feedback has been very, very positive. I also want you to know that we've worked with Montgomery County Police at the vote centers, and they will also have our 4 vote centers as part of their patrol the day before the election, as well as election day, to make sure that things are running smoothly and traffic is moving in and out of those locations very smoothly. So, and we are part of their Special Operations Division on June 1st and June 2nd. And then the Dropbox under
Video here.
Yeah, the Dropbox here is on a camera, so it can be seen. Every one of the Dropboxes, whether it's here or the city of Rockville or the 5 locations, whether it's Gaithersburg or the 4 county locations, they're all under camera surveillance, and there is going to be an increased police presence. So as I said, on Saturday, when I came up here, the Montgomery County Police were driving through the parking lot, But we do have a camera on our facility too. So there's that piece of it. With regards to, we sent you a preliminary canvas schedule that probably still needs a little bit of refinement. But the first thing that's most important is that Thursday we commence at May 21st at 9 a.m. And so the board will formally begin the process, and staff will begin to their process. Now, at this time, we have approximately 1,000 ballots that have to be duplicated. So that's what we're going to begin with. So we probably will not be scanning any ballots on the first day. We will begin scanning ballots on May, is it 22nd or 23rd?
22nd.
On May 22nd. Hopefully we'll have enough ballots then, at least we need about 5,000 to begin scanning. And then the schedule, the board referrals will occur, the first one will occur on May 21st at 3 o'clock. I don't really expect it to be very large, but it will give the board and the board attorney an opportunity to do a test run of your video process of conducting the canvass. And then each day we plan to open ballots as the various ballot envelopes are returned, and hopefully we'll have the majority of the ballots counted on or before June, well, ideally June 2nd, but realistically by June 10th. So there's that part of the canvass. Now, with regards to the actual process, we have 4 different teams, bipartisan teams, going to all of the various drop boxes starting tomorrow. And they will pick up at the drop boxes, as well as there's 2 pickups with the U.S. Postal Service daily. And the voted ballot envelopes will be returned to Training Room 1, where they're expected to sit for 24 hours. And then they're going to be laid out by date and time and separated by U.S. Postal versus Dropbox. And they, at the end of the day, they will all be locked up into steel cages with padlocks and our regular nighttime lockdown procedures. There will also be a security seal that will be used daily, and Michelle Gondo, our absentee specialist, our absentee specialist, will be the individual that's managing that. Then once we have that completed, then they'll go into Training Room 2, and we'll begin separating all the timely, which will be the majority of them, and then they will also then be subdivided, what we are describing as imperfect returned ballot envelopes, such as missing signatures. Online web delivery ballots aren't imperfect, they just have to be duplicated. But they're segregated so that we can pull those out and get a ballot. And then anything that has a undeliverable sticker from the U.S. Postal Service or a new address. And then once that has all occurred, they'll be batched into 100 envelopes and moved into the absentee warehouse, and anything that isn't completed in that day will be locked down, security seals, and we'll use the log sheet, again managed by our absentee specialist. Then once it goes into the absentee warehouse, which is where they're generally housed, the batches will all be logged into MD Voters, and it will appear on the voter file of each of various voters, and the voters will then be able to check the state board website that it's actually been received. There will be a batch cover sheet and a header cover sheet, and then they will, once those are all batched down and into what batches of 100. Then they will go downstairs to the main warehouse, the IT warehouse, where they will be locked up in the audit room and then brought out each day for the canvas, in which the process by the canvas individuals this time, they will have to follow a very specific procedure in order to open these ballots, ensure the secrecy of the individual, separate the ballot from the envelope. The envelopes will be removed from the desk or the table, and then the ballots will be unfolded, batched in 100. Header sheet will go with the batches, the batch of 100, to Janet Ross's team, where they will proceed to scan the ballots as they come in. In slow periods, if we have the time, we will take some of the IT scanner guys and help assign them to help us do some of the canvassing so that we can move this process along. Everybody will be sworn in. The information technology, in terms of what we're doing, as I said, we have the public test on May 20th at 10 a.m. We're using a combination of high-speed scanners and DS200s to be able to scan as many ballots effectively and efficiently as possible. The warehouse is being reconfigured so that the canvas will have the necessary social distancing plus a good camera view. DTS has been working with Janet, and Janet has been, and her staff are doing a yeoman's job and working with Kevin to make sure that we are able to provide video of the canvas process. I believe all the board members picked up their iPads today so that they will be able to work with the board attorney to review ballots that have been referred to the board for their disposition. And then the board attorney will explain at the beginning of the canvas how the canvas is going to work and how someone will proceed to challenge a vote if they choose to challenge. And the canvas members were all sworn in. The canvas tables are, as I said, they're going to be 6 feet apart. And that's pretty much it for the actual canvas. So, are there any questions with regards to the canvas schedule?
Margaret, Jim.
Yeah.
Margaret, can you hear me?
Yes? Yes, I can.
Just to move back a few steps, in regards to what we talked about earlier, where a voter who doesn't get their ballot should call us, that should be on the front page of our website, because that's going to be the main interest of all our voters. Can we put that right up front, right on the website, so people see right away, I didn't get my ballot, here's what I do, kind of thing?
After May 22nd, I will work with Janet to have that occur. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but we will do our best.
And secondly, and one step back on this one, someone shows up to vote, they have their own mask, good. They don't have a mask, we offer them a mask. What happens, and I know it's going to happen, some voter or voters are going to say, I don't wear a mask, I don't want to wear a mask.
This one's for your board attorney.
So Jim, when we had our call with the state board and the assistant attorney general assigned to the state board, we were told that the state board's position is that if someone showed up without a mask and refused to wear one, that they should be permitted into the vote center to vote. That position of the state board was met with significant opposition by those that were on the call, and they are going to revisit the issue. And I've spoken to the assistant attorney general regarding my feelings about it. We are willing to give someone a mask if they show up without one. I don't really understand why we would potentially endanger everyone else who happens to be in that vote center, including our voters and workers, because someone does not wish to comply with a requirement that the county executive has imposed upon everyone. So the answer is the state board hasn't given a final answer yet, but there were a number of attorneys that disagreed with the state board's initial position on it, and they said they would look into it, and I expect to have an answer on Tuesday.
Okay. Because I foresee that happening. You know, you see everybody's told social distancing, and yet there's 14,000 people on a beach. You know, so we're going to have the resistance, I'm sure.
Well, I raised the question because I do envision it happening as well.
I appreciate that. Now, more regarding the canvass, is Senator Kagan still on the line? Has she left?
Okay.
Senator Kagan still on the line? I'm sorry? I don't think so. I think she may have had to leave. But she's...
Nope, Jim, I'm here.
Oh, good. Now, I just wanted to say, Senator Kagan is the vice chair of basically the main oversight committee for the election, and she's taken a statewide overview of things that became issues in this last congressional race in District 7. And she raises some excellent points, which I'd like to just highlight, and then maybe the senator can just, chime in on some of the issues that have arisen. I think the main thing is, there's going to be a lot of public interest in the election, and from what she has told me and her inspection of the election in Baltimore, it was almost impossible, very difficult for a person to view what the canvassers are doing. The cameras were far away, and basically what someone saw was just someone shuffling paper. So my question to Margaret is the availability of the public to see what the canvas is doing. Are they going to be close-up shots or angled so the viewer can see what's going on? There was a concern, and Senator, if you wanted to expound on that, because you had seen the pictures of what people saw.
Thank you. Margaret, do you want to go first, or do you want me to just add to what Jim said?
No, you can go first.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. So thank you, Jim, for this opportunity. I watched all three of the canvases, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Howard County. They used 3 different servers. One used Google, one used Teams, one used YouTube, and one used, I have to pull them up now to look at them, but 3 different methods. The bottom line is that none of them were close enough to actually provide the transparency that was the goal. The intent was clearly there to be compliant, and yet we also want to be aware of privacy. And so we don't want the cameras right on top of people because we don't want to be able to see how John Smith at 123 Main Street is voting. But we do want to make sure that that people can see the process. Margaret, it was reassuring to me the way you described the batches of 100. That was not the way that it was done elsewhere, and it was kind of open an envelope, look at the ballot, decide it was legal, and then hand it to the person who was their partner. And then we couldn't see what the partner was doing. For the record, there was Microsoft Teams, there was WebEx, and there was YouTube. Those were the 3 methods used by the 3 jurisdictions. I don't know if you guys have settled on who you'll be using, which process, but making sure that link is available, easy to find on your website and on Twitter and Instagram so that the public that wants to observe can engage. It was troubling to see the number of election workers that were not wearing masks and gloves and the close congregating. So I'm worried that they were not taking their own health seriously. And then the last thing that I'll mention is it would be great. Everyone did it slightly differently, but to have a live stream ability to comment or ask questions. That was helpful. Sort of what is the person in the purple shirt doing, or what is, that ballot or something. It was also particularly helpful. I think it was Baltimore County that actually had a sign. It was Baltimore County. It had a sign, just a little mini poster, so that if there was a lunch break or a delayed finish or something, that someone clicking on something would know what the status was and didn't have to guess. That was actually, I thought, great customer service, and that was the only place that did that. So those are just a few of my concerns. Proximity for transparency, but yet allowing privacy, an attention to the process so that there is confidentiality in how any individual ballot was cast, safety for the workers, and then transparency in terms of a poster. And Margaret, I'm happy to forward you some photos I took. I have shared them with Jim. Jim, I give you total permission to forward them to Margaret or your board colleagues, your staff, or whomever you like. They're not perfect, but for people who didn't get a chance to observe the canvas, I encourage you to just take a quick look. Each of the photos is labeled as to which jurisdiction it was taken from. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Yeah, Senator, just a couple of things you had also raised, which I don't want to leave off the table. Are very important. I know the legislators and a lot of the activists in the county, both parties, would very much request a tabulation by precinct of the vote. And I know the state board has said it's impossible, Margaret, but it certainly helps in seeing if there's any fraud, and it's just a valuable tool to have precinct counts.
Right.
And I think the state board left it up to the local boards if it can be done. So, question to you, Margaret, is can it be done? And if it can, how much manpower and extra burden would that be?
No, it cannot be done.
If I can just speak to that before Margaret goes. So Nikki Charleston talked both in the Senate hearing on Wednesday and the state board meeting where legislators and her board members expressed a great interest in precinct reporting. And both times she explained in some length about there's the possibility of doing it at the front end and the back end. That it was too late for the front end, but it is indeed possible to do at the back end. And so, Jim, you set it up exactly right, which is the question of how much staff power that would take, what sort of time it would take, and how many people it would take. But there's a great deal of interest among the advocates like Common Cause and League of Women Voters and NAACP and PIRG and others, and then among candidates and folks interested in the data and any concern about errors and possible any fraud or something, that precinct data, or at the very least ballot style data, would be for June would be valuable, and we have been assured that for November it will happen. But I would love for Montgomery County to be at the front end of this and showing, as we always have, that we can provide this data for June.
We cannot.
I will.
You want to expound on that, since Nikki said it was possible, rather than just saying no?
We can divide it up by ballot style, but there is simply not enough time to begin doing this at this point. There's just not enough time. What you're asking for would mean everything would have to be delayed. We would have to almost start from the beginning of our planning process for the canvass. And we could sort them by ballot style and by party, but that's it.
Well, I think that would be appreciated and better than nothing. It's one of those perfect examples of the good, but that's by certain help in case of a recount or any sort of need to drill down. There was also one last thing that I'll mention is that in some of the canvassing that we were watching, we saw the ballots face up. And if we can just remind folks that when they open the envelopes, that the ballots, especially the online ballot, delivery and stuff, those that are printed on their home ballots that are going to need to be duplicated should all be face down, just for privacy and stuff, especially with cameras.
That's an excellent point. Two more things we had talked about. I think we already have it on the website, but the senator was concerned that, or encouraged us to discourage people from, the internet ballot process, and that they had to print it out and use their own postage. But Margaret, my recollection is the website does, in effect, say something to that effect. Is that correct?
Does it? Yes.
Yes, it does. It says that if you've requested a web delivery ballot, you're responsible for the postage.
Okay.
Hopefully that will discourage some folks. That's really helpful. And we may even want to discuss at the state and local level even stronger encouragement not to do this, because Montgomery County has its hands full already, so that we don't get too many of those if we're dealing with this in November.
And the last thing we talked about, but really for the November election, is to have a privacy envelope for November's vote. Too late now for the primary.
So as board members, yes, thank you, Jim. So as board members probably know, state law allows locals to decide whether to have 2 envelopes or 3 envelopes. And the state is handling all the printing and mailing and stuff this year, obviously, or for June. If we've got the capacity to do it ourselves for November, there are a lot of us who think that a privacy sleeve or privacy envelope would be a wise idea for November. So I know that's not top of mind right now. You guys are awfully busy focused on June, but it is something that has come up, again, in the legislature as well as with SB.
So, Senator, when you say it came up in the legislature, you're not saying that it requires new legislation. You're saying that we already locally have the authority to make that decision?
You do. It's in current code. It says that locals basically can have 2 or 3 envelopes. So there are 19 states that already have in law a requirement to have a privacy envelope. And then there are a bunch more, and I don't have the number in front of me. There are a bunch more that have it in regs that also requires 3. In Maryland, we're one of a small number of states that gives a local option on this. And again, as we're talking about, as we're going from 5% absentee to, let's say, 95%, I think it's increasingly needed, because when you're passing it yourself and bringing it directly to the scanner, it's not relevant, not needed. And the numbers are so big that we want to, in my opinion, we ought to separate the oath, the signature, the identity in one more step from the ballot itself. And obviously, I'm an environmentalist and I want to save taxpayer money, but I think the extra envelope and the extra expense will be appropriate for this historic election.
May I ask a question, Jim?
Sure.
Margaret, by when would we need to decide if we wanted to have the privacy envelope for the fall?
David, I don't know the answer to that question.
So we're supposed to find out. Thank you, David, for the question. So at the hearing, it was, I can't remember if it was Nikki Charlton or Linda Lamone who said that the governor will need to give the state board an answer for November by mid-June. So hopefully by June 15th or something, we will all know whether we're going to plan for another vote by mail or return to mostly in-person voting.
Well, all I'm asking, and I realize that, Margaret, that you probably spent no time thinking about the fall election because you have your hands full with the one that's coming up. But the one thing that I'd like to avoid is for us to schedule a discussion of this matter and then to be told that it's too late. I was thinking ideally that we would do it, we could talk about it at our June meeting, but our June meeting I believe we're talking about possibly moving it from the 15th to the 22nd. And I would just want to suggest that we either discuss it at our next meeting or we discuss it sooner if it turns out, when people do look into it, that it needs to be decided sooner in order for it to happen. I would just want us to make a conscious decision and not be ruled by the clock.
Mr. President, I would suggest that you consult with your board attorney to send a letter to the state board as to how they are willing to proceed and how these costs are going to be divvied up.
That's a great question.
Okay, I think for that.
Because the state has gotten federal money, as you all know. And so how much of that does that mean they can cover?
Yeah, I'll talk to Kevin. That's a good suggestion.
Jim, may I ask another question about the canvas?
Sure.
I guess I want to find out what we're doing in order to embargo our results. When we run ballots starting on the 21st, do the machines automatically, do results come out of the machine? How many people are going to be in the know about that? What are we doing in order to make sure that the results remain? And I realize we do this with early voting every election, but now we have it on a much larger scale. So my question is, what do we do in order to make sure that those results are embargoed?
David, I just want to point out there are many states that start, in fact, you've heard this presentation since the beginning of the year. Jessica White and I have advocated this for a long time. Many states do begin the process of tabulating results, and I'm going to switch it over to Janet Ross to explain how none of the results are divulged until 8 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have to close the machines every night we run canvass. This was a directive from the state, and upload the results to them. But everybody is required to sign a confidentiality form that says, I will not divulge any of this information. And most of the times, the people that are closing machines, they're not really looking at the results. They hand us the stick and say, here. They don't really, and they hand us the paperwork. So most of the times it's just me, Lisa, and Jerry that actually, and Margaret maybe, that knows what's on the paperwork and what the results were. Because they really don't pay attention by that point. They just want to shut down the machine and go home.
So there's an agreement of some sort that people sign saying that they're not going to disclose it, but the information goes to someone at the state, it sounds like.
Yes, on one of the state calls, they said that we had to upload the results into the system every night.
Okay. And is this the same way that we've handled these types of issues in the past?
Actually, yes, it is. Plus, when we have early voting, we had all of the election judges down in the server room who were closing out all of the voting units. And so they were seeing the results, and they basically signed that same confidentiality agreement, and we would bring them upstairs, depending on what time it was, feed them dinner, and then keep them here till 8 o'clock and send them home.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Senator, thank you very much. Appreciate your...
Thank you, Jim. And again, thank you to all the staff and board members for all you're doing in these stressful times. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Margaret, I think, I didn't see it on the agenda, but I think we usually see if there's any new business at this point. New
No.
business, old business? Okay, I've lost my agenda.
New business.
Are we down now to approving the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
before we get to the minutes. No, never mind. Never mind. The minutes are fine. I can make a motion on the minutes if you like.
I think, Lisa, we have 3 sets.
I'm sorry, Jim, can you repeat that?
Lisa, we have 3 sets of minutes, right?
Correct.
Hey, Jim, this is Margaret.
Yes.
The question was asked by Senator Kagan, would we be able to create precinct results? And the answer is no. And now there's some question as to whether we can even do it by ballot style and by party. So I'm going to have to spend more time with Janet and her team to discuss whether that's possible.
If you could look into it, that would appreciate it.
Sure. We'll get right on top of it.
Was there something before the minutes now? Lisa, what minutes do we want to look at first?
We have the March 16th, 2020 minutes that were originally transcribed and were asked to be held over to this meeting.
Okay.
And then
The
we have...
motion and the second?
I'll make a motion if no one else does. I'll move that we.
What minute are we talking? I don't have the meeting of March in front of me. Which one are we?
The March 16th, the transcription minutes.
That one we already rejected last meeting.
Those minutes have not been approved.
Is that 90 page or whatever that thing was?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to approve those.
Jim, may I speak to that?
What are we talking? Are we talking about the transcript? There was no minutes, was there?
No, there were not.
The transcript was the minutes.
May I speak to that?
Sure.
I know that we voted on it last month, and I know that we had a party line vote against it last month. I would just like to point out that at the moment we do not have an alternative. We do not have any other minutes of that meeting. We spent the money to get it transcribed. We said explicitly in advance that we were going to try it out and see what we thought about it. I can understand, although I disagree, that there are some people who don't like the idea of a transcript. But at the moment, the only choices we have are to have no minutes, which I think would be illegal. We can ask Kevin that question. Or to have the transcript as, and there were some corrections that were submitted. I believe they were only misspellings. I don't think there was anything else that was changed on the transcript. Or you would be requiring someone to go back and create minutes from the recording, which would be a gross waste of resources, given that we already decided in advance that we were going to do the transcript. So I would like to appeal to anyone on the board who considers themselves to be a fiscal conservative to consider the fact that we've already paid for the transcript and consider posting it, and you can decide that you've learned your lesson and you don't want to do it again. But I think for that particular meeting, we don't have an alternative.
Kevin?
Well, this
Kevin?
is Diane. Let me just say something to David. If I agree to this, this is not saying I've learned my lesson. This is saying that for the sake of peace, I would be allowing it to happen as a one-off.
When I said
learning a lesson from something
Diane, that's not what I meant by learn your lesson. What I'm saying is that we all decided that we were going to try a transcript and see how
Okay,
it was.
David, listen.
And
No,
please let me finish my sentence. Please let me finish my sentence. Please let me finish my sentence. No, please, no,
Listen, Jim.
no. Diane is misinterpreting what I said.
Since
One
I
at a
do
time.
not have any other minutes, so I move we accept the minutes of March, which was transcribed. And no more conversation, no more telling us
I
what to
second
do.
it.
Just let's do it.
Yeah,
I
and
second.
David, I agree, and I said what I needed, and I would approve these also. I appreciate your explanation. I get it.
David moved to No, he made the motion. I seconded it.
Okay.
Any further
Jim, go ahead
discussion?
and get the vote.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the March 16th transcript, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Is it on mute?
No, that's unanimous.
Jim,
Okay.
I just want to make sure that it's clear that the transcript includes the corrections that were submitted, all of which were...
No more correction.
spelling.
You wanted the transcript. That's the transcript. What is it?
No.
No correction.
So you want to post a transcript that is inaccurate, is what you're saying?
That's the way you want it. That's the guy you said.
No, that was never the way we want. Oh, come on. Grow up.
Did we put in the corrections at the last meeting?
No, I did not.
The motion I made at the last meeting included the corrections, but you guys voted it down. And I would like to change my vote if the vote is going to be on posting the transcript without the corrections. And at the very least, I would like to propose an amendment to add the corrections, and let us have a vote on adding the corrections, because the corrections are part of any transcript, as any lawyer knows. I'm sure Jim knows this. I'm sure Kevin knows this. I'm sure Alan knows this. I'm sure every lawyer knows, and every non-lawyer knows, that transcripts always require corrections. So if the vote is going to be on an uncorrected transcript being posted, when we have corrections that we submitted on time, before the deadline, that apparently people have a problem with, then I want to change my vote, or else I'm going to make a different motion.
Okay. And David, this is Diane. Quick question. Excuse me. And you said
How much correction is that? I don't have it in front of me.
Let me finish.
How much correction is that?
Oh my Lord.
I believe Diane was talking.
Yeah, see, David, you said the corrections are pretty much typographical. You know, it's not additions, right?
No, it's not additions. If you hold on, I will tell you
I can
exactly.
go along with
Or
that.
I can send you guys the corrections if you'd like. I have to find them because they would be in my. Let's see. Did I send them, or did Alan send them, or where are they? Hang on a second.
So this is Kevin. My recollection is it's basically Alan went through and changed nothing of substance, but he did correct who was speaking and the spellings of people's names, but there were no substantive corrections made.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I'm good with that. I'm okay with
If
that.
that's the case, I moved we accept the minutes as amended by whoever did it.
I agree.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on Naheed's motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Lisa, that's unanimously accepted. Next minute?
The next set is April 8th, 2020.
I move we accept that. I move we accept the April 8th minutes.
As amended, or?
Second.
I'm sorry, can I get a clarification? Is that as amended?
Was it amendment?
Alan submitted some minor amendments by the deadline just a few days ago.
Can I ask a question about those? Were they it looked to me like those were kind of substantive additions, and as well as they were stated and informative, I am opposed to, no matter how meritorious, adding information to minutes that were not discussed. And it was unclear to me. It struck me that they were not part of the original transcripts, that they were added in. And no matter how good they are, I cannot go along with that.
But Diane, there are two different April minutes that we're talking about. Okay, we have the April 8th minutes, and that was from the meeting where we chose the voting centers. And those minutes were very short, and Alan's comments were also very short. And I'm trying to find them right now so that I can give you all a sense, or I mean, it was sent to you by Alan. Alan, do you happen to remember when you sent them?
Right. No, I got them. I got them, but it
for
was
the April 8th minutes, right?
Right. It was just a lot of blue. It just looked to me like wholesale additions.
Then you're looking at April 20th. You're not looking at April 8th.
Oh.
April. Okay. Look at Thursday on Thursday, May 14th.
Okay.
No, that's not it. Hang on a second, Alan. When did you send that?
April 8th.
We got 4, 5, 6. We got 3 Hospi scanners. Remember, we can separate the scanners.
I'm pretty sure that. Okay. So if you look at an email from Alan on May the 15th at 9:45.
Okay.
He says, on the minutes for the April 8th meeting, I just corrected the spellings of a few names and added a sentence.
Oh,
You did it or Alan did it?
Alan did it.
Well,
I am just reading you what Alan said.
if that's what it was, I'm fine with that. I'm still trying to pull it up, but if that, I certainly
That's what it
believe
was.
what Alan said, and if that's what
That's
it was,
what it-
I'm okay with that.
I'm going to forward it to all of you right now.
That's my recollection. Alan just added, there was one sentence added.
I just,
Thanks.
I
I must
just
have
sent
been
it.
thinking of the later one.
I just sent it to you.
I got it in my computer. I moved, we accept the minutes with that amendment, whatever the correction. I have it in front of me.
That's April 8th,
Yes,
2020.
yes.
Is there a
Yes.
second?
Right.
I'll second it.
Any
Okay,
discussion?
Jane. No,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? At least, so that's unanimously accepted. And April 20th, I believe, is the last minutes.
Okay.
Alan, we appreciate your time and effort to editing, but a lot of this editing really is not necessary. We have the tape, we have the audio, and the beginning of the minute we said you can watch it in YouTube. So if anybody has any question, they can just go there and listen to it. By having a long minute, especially now people have a lot of other things to do, I don't think it's necessary. That's my view.
Nahid, are you making a motion on the April 20th minutes, or am I?
I'm talking about 4/20/2020.
I know what you're talking about. I'm ready to make a motion if unless you wanted to do it instead. Jim, may I be recognized to make a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion to approve the April 8th, 2020 minutes.
I'd like to move to approve the April 20th minutes with...
April 20th, I'm sorry. We did April 8th. This is April 20th.
Right. I'd like to move to approve the April 20th minutes with the revisions as indicated in my email of 1:44 p.m. today.
Oh, the one you're talking about you, not Alan. Correction.
No, it includes some of what Alan wrote, and then I went in and deleted portions of what Alan wrote. And as you know, Nahid, because you and I talked about it, my effort here, I don't agree with most of what Nahid just said about the minutes, but I do know that there are people on the board.
What did I say which is not true? Can you say that? Because I like to learn from you.
I didn't say. Well, first of all, I would really appreciate the opportunity to finish what I was saying, but I didn't say that what you said was not true. I said I didn't agree with most of it. For one thing, the thing I want to make very clear is that you said that people are particularly busy right now. It takes far more time to listen to the recording than it does to read the minutes or a transcript. And I can certify that, put me on a polygraph, etc. Far more time. The transcript could be reviewed in an hour. The tape requires going through the length of the meeting plus in order to listen to the tape. So I don't agree.
Then why do we have?
Nor we have the tape for lots of reasons. That's not one of them. But anyway, you're arguing with me, Nahid, when I'm proposing something that's designed to address your concern that you said to me addressed your concern. And that is that I essentially am proposing something of a compromise between what Alan proposed and what others might prefer, which is to take out a good portion of the detail. And you can see in the version that I sent you, I highlighted the deletions that I made. It does include something.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David.
No, please let me finish. I am not done.
I have a proposal.
I am not done.
I have a proposal.
I am not done, and I made a motion. I made one at a time. I made a motion, and I am not done with my statement. What I wanted to say is that there are things that were added by Alan that need to be added, not the least of which is that the minutes as they came to us did not have any of the action items listed. So clearly there were things that needed to be added. What I did was I tried to come up with a version that was going to be an in-between. I thought I had successfully gotten Nahid to agree. She told me that she agreed. I'm not saying that we're ever going to agree on what we think the minutes should include as a matter of philosophy.
Jim, I have a question.
I'm just trying to get it done and move on.
I know, Jim. I have a question.
Yes.
Didn't in January we vote by majority not to have all this editing, all those extras, just go whatever the staff says. The only thing we can change is if we say something which is not there. Didn't we approve that one for the rest of our year? I mean, the rest of the day.
Yeah, but from what I understand, you and David reviewed this today.
Excuse me?
Did you review with David the April 20th meeting minutes?
Yes, I did. I'm saying didn't we, in January, we already solved this problem that no more editing. We appreciate Alan's time. We appreciate it, but no more editing. Let's Lisa do her job and then get on with our lives with whatever we're supposed to do. Not just
that is
my recollection. But we did allow.
I don't believe
medical or factual mistakes.
I don't believe that is what we agreed to, and I will tell you that under several sources of law, and certainly under Robert's rules, there is no way to stop members of the board from proposing changes to the minutes. You can vote them down if you'd like, but all of us, Alan, myself, all of you, we all have the right to make changes to the minutes. I don't believe that the board voted to say that we couldn't propose them, but if you did, it's not valid. And it will certainly not stop us from proposing changes when important things are left out. And so, there's no body in the world that doesn't allow its members to change its minutes. With not many democratic countries, with a small deal.
Okay, well, let me just add to that. This goes right back to my first submissions of comments. I realized I was talking about the wrong minutes, but what I said about 15 minutes ago is germane to this, and that is, I don't care how meritorious the information is, how important you think it is, how germane it might be. I am constitutionally opposed to just putting stuff in the minutes that weren't discussed at that time in the minutes.
Diane. Diane, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you think that the things that were added were not said in the meeting, or are you saying that the fact that they were added to the minutes has not been discussed? Because I will tell you that everything that is added to the minutes is based on the recording and has been said in the meeting. Nothing is being added to the minutes, because I agree with you 100%. The minutes should not include extraneous information that we now think is relevant that we didn't discuss at the time. The minutes should include what was discussed at the time, and what I thought we were arguing about is just the level of detail and which items that are left out should be included. But there's nothing being added to the minutes to my knowledge. Now, I didn't listen to the recording this month. I just read Alan's comments on the minutes. But to my knowledge, nothing has been added to the minutes. We should ask Alan that question. That wasn't actually said at the meeting. Because I agree with you, nothing should be added that's just an extraneous comment. The minutes are not commentary. The minutes are supposed to be a description of what happened at the meeting.
Right, and so we agree on that. And my understanding was since this written transcript is a written track of what the audio is, in order to facilitate the public being able to go back into the transcript to find things. I was under the impression that the written transcript would chronologically track what was happening in the meeting, and I was under the impression that this set that we're talking about now didn't work like that. That things were added, grab from here, grab from there, and then synopsized and put down, and I think that's confusing. I do appreciate the fact, and it helps me make a decision, that you're saying none of this is information that is not reflected or is not heard in the audio from the...
Diane, may I?
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, I will confirm everything that I added came directly from the audio that I heard, and a lot of the stuff I put in, I think pages 3 to 4, Margaret gave some very valuable information, both in answering questions posed by the board members, by the public, and as well gave very good descriptions of what the primary process is. And the public record to reflect that. Those are very important things. And I've gotten a lot of questions about these very same things. Now, if this goes onto the record, onto the website, I can show people, look at the website. This shows you what the official policy is. This tells you what's being done with sanitizers, etc. So there's no question about it. All of it came directly from the audio. I heard it all. And sometimes I went back and forth to hear things, make sure I got it right. But I heard every single part of that tape.
How easy is it to look at the transcript and find the section in the audio? Which is my understanding why we're doing this, having the transcript.
That's exactly right. This is Jackie. Exactly right, Diane. Everything is in the audio. Everything is in the transcript. And that we were trying to abbreviate the minutes, and the audio and if you do the transcript are all annotated. Alan, people can get back in there quite easily to find out exactly what was said. And so the reason we were doing all of this is to try to have it save time at the meetings and make it much easier for people to get into exactly what happened. And all of that has been done.
This transcript, suppose somebody wants, we are not infallible. The only, I think, accurate record we have of our meetings is the audio. Anytime somebody takes sequentially, anytime somebody takes out of order non-sequentially information, you have an editorializing going on and editing going on, and I just don't want to be responsible for every month they have to scrutinize it before I vote to approve it. So I'm
Diane, may I speak to that?
Yes,
Diane,
please.
may I speak to that? First off, let's get our terminology here, because we only have one board meeting for which we had a transcript. We have minutes for other board meetings, and we had a transcript for one. And what you are describing right now, the wanting a desire not to have to scrutinize whether you think that the editorial decisions that were made about the minutes were appropriate or not. That was the leading reason for the transcript. Because if you have a transcript of the meeting, as I pointed out earlier, you can read a transcript of a 4-hour meeting in an hour. But if you want to listen to the recording, it takes much, much longer, even with the additional helpful things that have been added in terms of the links to where it is in the recording. When you have a transcript, the only thing that we are then looking for is making sure that the words are spelled correctly and that they didn't suggest that you said something that I said or that I said something that you said. And it takes far less effort on the part of board members, and it involves almost no editorial decision. So that was the benefit. And then you might say, well, who's going to read all of that? And I think that people are more likely to read a transcript than they are to listen to a recording. Although I agree with you that the recording, aside from the possibility that not everything gets picked up and we talk over each other, but the recording is the only thing that is, like you say, none of us are infallible. So the reason for the transcript was to make it so that there wouldn't be editorial decisions. Otherwise, there are going to be editorial decisions every month. Now, in order to make the minutes shorter, that requires editorial decisions, and then all of us get to decide after we've been at the meeting whether there's anything that happened in the meeting that we think was significant that should be added, and when I say added, I'm not talking about things that didn't happen at the meeting. It has to be things that did happen at the meeting. And the recording allows us to make sure that it's not just based on our faulty memory, it's based on what actually happened. So that's what I think we are choosing between. I personally like the transcript. I like the transcript because it saves me a ton of time. Because I don't have to make editorial decisions. I don't have to be criticized for my editorial decisions. I don't have to worry about any of that. All I have to do is make sure that what it says I said was actually me, and that the words are spelled correctly. What I don't know, and I don't know whether staff has any information about this, I suspect that if we were to consider the amount of time that is spent on preparing the minutes and reviewing the minutes, that the transcript may actually be less expensive for the county, for the board. So that would be another reason to consider that. We would spend less time at board meetings, we'd probably spend less staff time, and we may end up saving money. But if you guys don't want to do that, then we can continue with the minutes. But I agree with you, we should never be adding things to the minutes that weren't actually stated at a meeting.
I think we're going to go back now to, I think there's a motion on the floor to approve the April 20th, 2020 minutes.
Mr. President, I didn't get a second on that motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah. Point of order. Is she moving to approve?
No.
Which minutes is motion on?
It's my motion.
April 20th.
It's my motion about April 20th on the version I sent this afternoon.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Actually, your version wasn't shorter than Alan's version, so.
Whatever it was, Mahi, you told me in a text that you approved of it.
I know,
So-
but I read it carefully and I thought it's the same with Alan, so.
It's not the same as Alan's. only thing I did in that version, and I'm sure Alan is not going to be happy with me. I appreciate his seconding my motion. But the only thing I did in that version was I deleted a bunch of stuff that Alan included. So by definition, it is definitely shorter than Alan's version because that's all I did was deletions.
Shame. Let's get on with our life. Approve the minute for God's sake, and then we decided what to do after the election is over. Because I just don't want to hear any more of minute business.
No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Lisa, that's unanimous.
I don't think we need any more editing, for God's sake. Go ahead, Ellen. Go ahead, Jim. Next.
That's the end of the minutes, right, Lisa?
That is correct.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And I want to thank staff for doing the minutes. I like what we get from them. So, Lisa, thank you.
I think before we adjourn, Kevin had a very good suggestion. We're scheduled. Our next meeting was scheduled for, I think, June 15th. But Kevin suggested we move that to June 22nd, Kevin, and the reasons are?
The reason is that the board needs to convene to certify the election results, and the staff feels comfortable that they'll have the audit done and everything ready for the board to actually certify the election on the 22nd. So you could combine the certification with the monthly board meeting.
I think that makes sense. Any discussion on that? I think that makes sense.
No, that's a good idea. Yes, thank you.
Fine with me.
All right.
Would the meeting still be at 2:30?
We usually still
Would the meeting still be at 2:30 or a different time?
It would be at 2:30.
Okay, so our next meeting is going to be June 22nd at 2:30. But I guess we'll do this each time we meet. We're all going to teleconference in or iPad in on this Thursday, May 21st at 9 o'clock. Is that correct, Margaret?
Yes, that is correct. And also, you do have to have a meeting on June 2nd.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
That's
We have
primary day.
Right. So it's not actually our next meeting. We're just going to move the June 15th meeting to June 22nd, and we're still going to have a meeting on June 2nd.
Yes.
Correct.
Next monthly meeting.
So the next time we talk is this Thursday, 9 a.m.
Yes.
Jim, I have a question about what you just said. This is Jackie. You said we meet on May 21st for Thursday at 9 o'clock and then again at 3 o'clock?
No.
Margaret?
On the list I had here, it said board convenes for referrals at 3 o'clock.
That is correct. That we have to formally convene the canvass for the vote by mail, and all I need is a quorum of the Board of Canvassers. I only need 4 people. Then at 3 o'clock is going to be your opportunity to do your first referrals from the day of canvassing that had occurred. It's kind of like, rehearsal.
Right, okay, so all I want is on Thursday, 3 days from now, we meet at 9 o'clock and again at 3 o'clock.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Margaret, I think Jim, I'm going to come over at 9 because I have to swear them in. Is that correct?
You don't have to. I mean, but you can if you wish.
Yeah, and then any follow-ups, I can designate that. But the canvassers will all be there on Thursday morning?
No. I'm not bringing in everybody because then I would have to pay them. So I'm only bringing in 8 to 10 people.
Oh, okay. No, we'll talk about that. Okay.
How long do you meet us on Thursday morning?
I would This is Kevin. I would say maybe 30 minutes in the morning, and I wouldn't expect the board referrals to take very long in the afternoon.
Okay, but
Then it looks like from the revised schedule, we're almost on a daily 3 o'clock call. And there's some gap, but basically, starting Thursday,
it's every
3
couple of
o'clock
days.
on.
It's every couple days. So this week it'll be Thursday at 3 and then Saturday.
Same way we did today. Sorry.
Correct.
Sorry, Kevin. We join the same way that we did today. We go to our iPads, do the meeting, and boom, you're there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Kevin,
Is there any other? Okay, everybody be safe. Is there any other business before we adjourn?
Do you need to say the executive?
Are we going to have an executive board meeting?
Yeah, someone needs to make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay.
I move.
No, we got to do that separately, Kevin, on a separate call.
I understand that, but you need to move to go into an executive session. A motion, a second, and a vote has to occur. The executive session will be for a personnel matter.
So to adjourn this meeting and go into executive session.
Any second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, so we're going to hang up now, and then you want us to call back in 5
That
minutes?
was an executive session motion. How about an adjournment motion?
Why don't you do a motion to adjourn the open session and then call back in 5 minutes?
Right, okay. I move we adjourn the public meeting.
Second.
And this, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.